Hi, everyone. As women, we live very complicated lives. And I wonder, are you involved in a relationship where you feel over-involved, where you feel like you're worrying and concerned about it all the time? Well, I'd like to share with you in this conversation some ways that you can deal with that worry, how you can manage the relationship. But first, Margaret Manning here with 60 and Me. And thank you so much for being here today. It's wonderful to have your company. Our sponsor for today's show is Easy Spirit. Easy Spirit is a comfort brand of shoes that's been making beautiful, fashionable, and comfortable shoes for years for women. Check out their website, easyspirit.com, and also be sure to look for the promotional code in the description at the bottom of this video. Now, this topic of worry and being over-involved in a relationship is really, really important. And I think that as we get older, we have different lenses where we experience this. The first is one that's really been described beautifully in an article by Sherry Sachs, one of our bloggers. When I read this article, it really struck me so deeply because it wasn't so much in the context that she was talking about it in terms of being a grandparent and looking after teenage grandchildren, but also about the relationships in our lives that we get over-involved in, where we feel somehow that we're responsible for the outcome of that situation, and we don't give ourselves enough time to just relax and not worry about it, and to find time for ourselves. And this is something that Sherry discusses very beautifully in the article, and I suggest that you read it. And by the way, we have a lot of articles on 60 and Me about this topic, so I encourage you to look for those as well. But she talks a bit about, from a grandparenting perspective, are you looking after a teenage grandchildren, or are you very close to them? Are you maybe even living in the home of your children? Or are you being, in a way, put in the role of being a caregiver to that child? So you're almost like a second mother to the child. And that child could be a teenager. And she talks about the complexity of dealing with children's emotions, and especially as they get older and the hormones start kicking in, and you've got just that whole range of worry and fear and doubt and concern that they have about their lives, and that you feel responsible for helping them. And she says, she is a grandmother that has a number of grandchildren nearby. They're always popping over to her house. When they were little, she looked after them. And they come to her for wisdom and for advice. And she says she over worries. She just waits for that phone call. She waits for that that something that's going to go wrong, and worrying how she is going to help. Now, maybe you've got a different situation where perhaps it's not a grandchild, but perhaps it's a friend or a family member. Or as a mother, maybe you've got a son or a daughter who is in a situation that's worrying to you. And I think that what Sherry's talking about here is how what we often do is we live their lives for them. We're trying to anticipate things that might go wrong, and we want to be there to solve all their problems, and and help them to move and maneuver through whatever difficulty they're having in their lives. It could be a partner. It could be somebody that you're a caregiver to. All these environments are actually so prone to this phenomenon. Women are kind of, in my opinion, once you get to be a little older, we're caregivers in general. We want to look after everybody. We want to, help them not make the same mistakes that we made. Especially as parents, I think we do this. But she says, it's hard for her to separate her emotions, from their emotions. When they're going through something, if you have been through, like it's a son or daughter or a grandchild that you've known from the birth, and they're now in their teenage years or as an adult, you really know them, and you feel their emotions as much as, as they do. So anyway, she says, the thing is, you've got to know, number one, they've got to go through the same things that you went through. You can't worry about their mistakes. And there's a great quote in the article about how, you have to embrace hardship and concern as part of the growing process. Like you can't help them to avoid that. You have to in a way say, I know it's going to be okay. And she actually gives you 3 pieces of advice here. And I think that all 3 of these are so valuable for making that separation. Detaching yourself from the emotion of a grandchild, a child, or someone you love. It could be, all of those relationships. But she says, here's 3 ways, 3 ways, and maybe you've got some that you can add, that are great ways of overcoming the worry. Are you a worrier or a warrior? This is a phrase that my other grandson always tells me. Oh, I just lost my earring. Wow, that hasn't happened before. I'll put it back in as we talk casually. So anyway, if you want to detach yourself from that situation, then what you've got to do is admit that you've got needs. You've got emotions that need looking after, and telling yourself this is their path. This is their path. I've got the other one, yeah. And let go of the control of the situation. You can't control it. It's just not in your control. And don't force yourself to put energy into their emotions. Separate, detach, and then engage. Learn that it's an art. It's a practice of engaging and then disengaging. Because if you engage all the time, you will never read the book, sit in your chair, relax, take the trip. You'll always be, defining your life in terms of theirs. So, second thing, after detaching and engaging, learning to practice that detachment, develop a philosophy of resilience. Resilience is such a powerful emotion. We've written about this before in different articles. Please check them out. This whole idea that if you can bounce back like a rubber band, it's not being like a hero. It's just knowing, okay, I'm going to take a break here and regroup. And that means taking time for yourself. We all go through struggles and disappointments and sadness, and you've got to, in fact, it's a gift to them, to that person that you're over protecting or over taking care of, that they need to go through it too. Yes, be there for them, but it's necessary for them to grow strong. And there is one final thing that she recommends here. And for me, this is probably the hardest, and it's also at the same time the most powerful. And it's that classic, you're on the plane, the person's doing the announcement and says, and when the oxygen masks fall down, please put yours on first before helping any children. It's the classic. You've got to self-soothe yourself. You've got to use some positive self-talk. Make yourself comfortable. Make a cup of tea. Get a hot water bottle, whatever it takes to just be super comfortable. Put a nice cozy sweater on. Work through your thoughts. Give time to you. Read that book. Pick up the book and read it. Distract yourself. When I was going through a personal situation that I won't share too much of, but I was going through a situation with someone, and I was so nervous about the outcome of that situation that I just couldn't relax. I took walks, I would read books, but the thing that got me, there was one thing that really helped me. And maybe it's helped you too. This is something that's so simple. It's like, a child can do it. And that is, I got a coloring book. I got children's coloring books, and I got this beautiful one with stained glass. And I got some inexpensive pens, coloring pens, and I just did page after page after page of coloring. And it helped me so much. And at the end, when the situation actually didn't get resolved, but when it was to a point that I could deal with it, I just threw the book away. Because I didn't need that coloring. It was there for that moment. So Sherry also mentions one important thing, and that's getting into nature. I think nature has been my friend, and probably has been for you too. And get out into nature and do things. The other thing you can do too, by the way, which is so important, is to stay physical. And if you do any dancing or swimming, or just get the energy, get the hormones in your own body going. And one thing I was going to recommend to you to think about are our 60andMe yoga videos. These are all free on YouTube. There's gentle yoga. This is gentle chair yoga. And then there's also yoga flows. There's 3 of them. This is yoga flows. And 3 of them for you, totally free on YouTube. If you want to buy the DVDs, then you can, there's an option to do that. So you can play these at home. But if you want to just view them on YouTube, they're free of charge. And these are recorded in Bali in a beautiful, serene setting. And they're really lovely yoga lessons for you. That's very soothing too, and very calming, and gets you back to yourself. It's hard. So are you available to someone more than you probably should be? Are you waiting for every call? Are you jumping on every request? Well, maybe it's time to look at that relationship and know that you're over involved and take some time for yourself. I think it's good advice. It's a great article actually by Sherry. Please read it and leave us your comments below on that. Are you in a relationship that you would consider over involved? How do you find yourself in that? How do you find time for you? Thanks so much, everybody. Have a wonderful day, and I look forward to sharing more stories like this with you in the future. Bye-bye for now.